the storm passed on through. But
Yeah.
nah, dude, I just think this is just strong coffee. We are talking about the coffee that you made.
Oh,
I
episode 7. Welcome.
Episode
Thank you.
7.
Love you guys. Yeah, I like dark roast. I feel like you're more of a medium roast or light roast type of dude.
No, it's not even the roast. It's how it's made. Like, this is a lot of coffee, and it's got that really
It's very strong.
burnt kind of.
It's not burnt.
I'm not saying that it's burnt. It's got that, but right, because it's hot, it's just off being made. It still has that really, I guess it's not acidic, but it's like what is that? What is that term? Bitter, more bitter, like acrid.
I don't get it.
That acrid taste. Really? See, you've destroyed your ability to perceive it because you drink this every day.
Because typically a lot of like, I've done a lot of research about this. The pour over is a really good method because it doesn't trap any of the CO2, which apparently gets dispelled from the coffee as it brews. And I could be wrong on the actual gas, but apparently that helps cut the bitterness because it's able to air out, and you're not just shooting water straight through it. Like, you give it time to I forget what they call it, but you wet it first and give it like a minute, and then it does something. I forget. There's a term for it, but I forget. And I also don't brew my coffee at boiling water. I'd brew it like 195, so it's almost impossible to burn it.
Right. No. I try to. That's what I try to air when I'm making my coffee in the French press, which is my usually daily method of making it. Is I try to let it come down well past boiling after I take it off, right? And then I typically make weaker coffee just for the taste. Like, because this is a very strong, like, when I say strong, I mean ratio of coffee to water.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I mean.
I
typically make it on the weaker side just for my own personal taste.
I love it. But still, you're still also more of a medium roast guy.
I like dark roast. I really do. I go medium or dark. I very rarely go to a blonde
technically,
roast.
the connoisseurs, you prefer the lightest roast because it holds on to the most flavors and the impact of where it came from and the differences, like a wine, the terroir of where it came from.
Right. I can tell you my overall preferred method of having coffee, though, 100%, is an Americano. That's my favorite.
This just black pour over. Good dark roast. It's rich and almost savory. It's so rich. I love it.
I like the cleanness of an Americano.
Yeah.
Because it's just that espresso, that very concentrated shot of coffee with some hot water. Like, it's so clean tasting. You know what I mean? It's so like I love that about it, and they go down so easy. This has more of the actual, I don't know.
To me, that's not bitter at all. It's chocolatey. It's rich. It's almost a little nutty, but I taste no bitterness.
I'm gonna try to break it down. Like, so when you make an espresso, right? You are creating an environment in which the dissolution of the coffee into the water occurs at a higher rate because it is under pressure.
Fair. Yeah.
Yes.
I believe so.
I think, yeah.
I'm not that well. I'm way better.
I'm sure
I'm
sure it can be explained better, but because it's under pressure,
right?
There's a more efficient dissolution. The coffee dissolves more easily into the water than not under pressure, right? So when that happens, and because of the filtering nature of an espresso shot, you get less of the actual coffee matter in your cup.
Yeah.
Right? However, the exchange and dissolution of the caffeine and some of the alkaloids off that coffee happened at a much better, or not a much more efficient rate. So you still get the benefits, but with less of the actual coffee or less of the actual plant matter.
That's why I don't like French press.
And that's the difference between a pour over or even a French press. The
French press is very got a lot of little granules in the bottom, a lot of leftover
sure.
material.
Not if, then this is how, because I make French press every day, and the key to it is to give it as much time as you
To
have
settle.
before you plunge it, and then plunge a little bit to get anything that was that was kind of like adhered to the surface off
Yeah.
the surface, and let it fall for like 5 minutes,
That makes
and then
sense
give
to
it
me.
one nice plunge and be gentle, because if you're gentle with it and you pour it,
Right. That's what I mean.
everything's already at the bottom.
Yeah, let it settle.
Everything's already fallen.
Right.
So what you're getting off the top is only anything that's actually dissolved in the water, right? Because it's not being affected by gravity, because it's at a molecular level.
Sorry, the AC cut off. I'm actually going to turn it off because it's fine in here so it doesn't cut back on, because that was very loud. That was a significant change with that cutting off.
Sure. Man, what a long week. Golly. I feel like last week was so long. Nothing, man. Just work. Just working.
I didn't work Thursday or Friday, so I was rearranging that room and kind of doing some maintenance on the house, trying to get it ready for Barry to move in.
Dude. Heck yeah, I do. So, Jake Paul and Nate Diaz fought last night.
I know.
That's where we're at in history right now for those listening in the future.
Brett asked me if I saw it, and I was like, I don't follow fights like that. I just enjoy hanging out with people.
It was pay-per-view. I didn't buy it, so I haven't seen it yet. But yeah, Jake beat him by unanimous decision. He outboxed him. Yeah.
No way.
Dude, yeah, he outboxed him, man. He's a young, naturally stronger guy.
No, I'm not selling him. I thought Nate Diaz would have a good chance.
Of course he did. He held his own in there. He didn't get embarrassed in there by any means. From what I've heard, it was a good fight, and they both had a good showing for themselves. But Jake was just the more efficient of the two. You know what I mean? Like that's just how it goes sometimes. Like it's definitely a sport. You know what I mean? It's like how do you in the sport? You can. It's weird because you would think that something like fighting, it's so black and white. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's who won that fight.
Yeah.
It should be easy to tell who won a fight. Sometimes it's not.
It was just a
It's
standard,
so weird,
standard
right?
UFC fight.
Yeah.
Wow.
No. It was boxing.
Boxing.
It was a
Okay,
boxing
yeah,
match. It was a boxing match.
I wasn't sure about that.
It was
Yeah.
boxing match.
I was gonna say just straight up.
This is
Bruh.
Jake. I think this is absolute fucking cap. But Jake Paul says he will fight Nate Diaz in an octagon or in MMA, and I think he is bullshitting. I don't think that is ever going to happen. He says that, but he is capping. If I could bet on that, I would bet.
That's why I didn't realize it was just boxing. That's why I'm thinking like, bro, Nate, come
But
on.
that's what I'm saying, bro. That's what I'm saying. He literally says he will fight him MMA style.
Please.
I say,
please.
baloney.
Please.
You are.
Bro, that's a money grab.
I've said it plenty of times now. Okay, yeah,
that's
for sure.
a money grab.
100%.
I'm paying for that fight.
Oh, I wouldn't buy the boxing version, but I would 100% buy the MMA version.
Dude, I'll pay
100.
I'll pay what, $90 to watch Jake Paul get his ass beat.
I would pay. So a regular UFC card is $80.
Right.
I would pay. If that was the main event, and they had 5 rounds in there,
I'd go up to 200.
I would pay. Yeah, I think 150 to 200 would be a price that they could 100% sell hella pay-per-view.
Everybody wants to see Jake Paul get his ass beat.
And think about the way people watch this too. Like, what do people do? There's not often. I'm sure some people do. A lot of people like one person sitting by themselves paying for it for $80. How do people watch it? They get together.
A group, yeah.
Because it's a pay-per-view event. It's a communal activity.
It's fun.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, because no one wants to just bankroll the whole thing. Like,
no, not just to sit at home with your wife.
Right. I mean, you'll buy it. You'll buy it if everybody's coming over to your house to party.
Right.
That's a fair compensation.
For sure.
That seems like a fair exchange because they're coming to your spot, right?
Yeah, we'll whip up a few pizzas.
Doing you a favor, right? You ain't got to go nowhere.
Oh, dude, that was so much fun. We definitely, dude. What's some good ones coming up? Plan another event.
I'm trying to think. The next fights. I know that the fall, like September and October
Some good ones.
is when it starts to heat up again. Yeah.
Ooh, that'll be good pizza making weather too, bro.
I'm so ready for
That's
it to
gonna be
cool.
nice.
I'm ready for October, my favorite month.
I need to get a little fire pit
October.
outside too. Have a little fire pit beside the pizza oven.
Do you have a favorite month? Do you think you would say you have a favorite month?
October's a good shout. I don't know. I like the coming of spring as well. I don't know. I can't pick a
Like
favorite.
a still cool, like non-polleny spring morning.
Yeah, like early March.
Right. Early March.
Yeah.
That's a good.
When you
time.
could still when some days it might get to like 60.
That briskness.
Yeah, but other days it stays at like 35 outside.
Dude, I went to the mountains in South Carolina, and it was like 2,000 feet, and I was looking for that feeling. You know, when you go to a high elevation and the air's thin and light, and it's not muggy. It's like it's not very humid. It's more like you just. You know, everybody knows that feeling if you've been to like a cool, even if you've just had experienced a cool, crisp morning, that feeling, that
it's
nice,
so nice.
That's what I was looking for,
can't beat
because
that.
I was been bogged down with this thick South Carolina summertime air, and I want some cool air in my lungs, and it wasn't even cool in the mountains, dude. Even at night, it was like, damn, it is humid and muggy.
I will say, when I've been going, the couple times I went in Hendersonville in the last week, it is a significant difference. It's not cool, but Lord, it's a difference. It's such a difference.
Well, Hendersonville is sitting at like right over 2,000 feet of elevation.
Yeah, like 2,300, somewhere around there.
That's about where I was
and
at.
Also up in the mountains, obviously, it fluctuates a lot.
Mm-hmm. And they're in the middle of the mountain range, like
they're in a little valley.
The biggest valley this side of the Appalachians, which is the French Broad. I mean,
really?
The French, that's one of the major veins in the middle of the Appalachian Mountains in western North Carolina.
Just tucked away. I love Hendersonville.
It's one of the oldest rivers in the world, and and it's been totally, the shape of it has been totally changed by man, because we've went in there, and what we've done is graded the entire area.
Right.
That's what we do. We make flat surfaces so we can build shit. We've done that in that valley, and it changes the way the river looks. Like,
oh, I'm sure.
Everybody knows, if you look at a lot of maps, that snaky like form that a river takes. Like, it's crazy how many of our waterways in the United States have, and all over the world, have just been totally changed by man. Like in South Carolina, we have so many dams. Like we're known for our lakes and stuff. It's crazy how we've altered the nature of all that.
Yeah.
And we've done it purely for recreation and value.
Right.
Which I don't disagree with. I mean, lakes offer people, you know.
You know what? When we've talked about this outside of on the mic, like I've always thought it was a good compromise that we do kind of take over some of these areas and we change them from their natural state and how they would be if they weren't touched by man. But in a lot of cases, the man-made lakes and all this, it encourages the people who don't want to go out camping and don't want to get by the river. They still have some type of recreational area to go enjoy nature and enjoy being outside. So in a way, it's a good compromise where the true nature lovers can still go out and find a nice, serene, tranquil spot. Mm-hmm. But then the casual people can go to the lake and still enjoy being out in the sun.
Right.
At the end of the day, it still encourages getting outside and having a good time, which is so important.
And in Columbia, the city of Columbia really shines at that, because it highlights in some of its largest public areas. It's really, they've developed infrastructure, a lot of recreational infrastructure right on the river. And that river is why that city is where it is. People don't just settle down in a shitty spot.
No.
That's not how people are.
Right.
People like places that are nice, especially in America. So we've built a lot of these cities. I mean, some of them in the Midwest are purely just cities built because of agriculture and industry, but
fertile land.
But South Carolina, like Columbia, is a beautiful, still garden-like area. It's not like one of these big cities where it's only concrete. Right. Columbia is a city, and people there's trees and people have beautiful landscape, and the beauty of the river is highlighted in the infrastructure. It's purposeful.
Also,
it's
Greenville.
purposeful. Same
Downtown
thing.
Greenville,
Exactly.
it's,
Built around that big beautiful shoal.
That's beautiful.
That is the Reedy River.
And again, we've transformed that into this man-made spot, but with that bridge up there, like, it encourages people to take a second and enjoy the nature of it.
Exactly.
Even though we've completely destroyed the ecosystem around that area, it still encourages people to take a step back and see nature.
Well, people have to live, don't they?
No, that's what I'm saying. There's the compromise.
Yeah.
There's still so much untouched nature that you can go out and enjoy if you truly want to go out.
Oh, nowadays you got to work really hard. But, I mean, South Carolina, here's the thing. This is old growth. You can go to a place that is, let's say, wilderness, right? You can go to a place that's wilderness, but I don't even want to get into the specific legal descriptions because it gets way over my head there. But you can go to a place that is managed federal forest, right?
Right.
But it is still utilized for its wood, right?
Yeah.
They'll do cycles of burning and harvesting and all this sort of stuff, like land management,
Right?
Right. And this, I don't know, that is like a big point of contention. You know what I mean? Like, but we've been doing it for so long.
Well,
and it's
like you said,
now, can you even avoid the human impact, or should you just be conscious that it's like humans are gonna have an impact, but how like what are we gonna find acceptable? It's just such a crazy thing.
The best option, if everything was perfect, would be to do as best we can to understand the natural cycles without industrialized people. Just get back and learn how the natural cycles progressed before we had the impact we had, and just try to replicate that as best we can. And obviously we're going to have an impact, but I'm saying that's the best. Like, if everything was perfect, that'd be the ideal scenario.
Well, so I think you're kind of thinking that nature produces at the most optimum level.
No. I'm just saying.
Do you think nature without this is kind of interesting because it kind of hits home at the question we're asking about land management, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how would the earth be better without our engineered man-made systems, or do we serve some greater purpose than just like, because we're obviously, in terms of just production of life, that's not obviously what we're trying to do. We're not trying to optimize life on this planet.
And if you
right? We're not trying to optimize growth of the forest. That's not what we're trying to do. What are we trying to do? So like, maybe is this like a point, like, what is more important to us? And this is going to be something that we have to decide as a society, right? Like, is it important to us to maintain these natural wild areas, or do we want to pursue something that is beyond that, right? Like, because right now we're leaning more on the technological, art simulated side, right? And when we're staying closer to our man-made areas and our man-made environments, and like, I don't know how much more we want to experience those sorts of things, because even in the places that we go and see in the Southeast, right? These beautiful places that seem like, an amazing place that no one's fucked up.
Yeah.
But the reality is, it's been restored,
and we're still like,
it's restored. That's not old growth. All those trees were cut down 100 years ago.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
And
it's like,
we're stocking rivers.
Exactly.
But like, I would, the optimistic in me would
really
like to say that hopefully we're going through a transition period.
I wonder how
where
long
we're getting
our sapien nature will last. I really do.
Oh man,
it's going to last for.
Never thought of that.
I really think that.
How far will we have to evolve before we're no longer Homo sapiens?
Right, because we're going to evolve.
I've never had that thought before.
What do you mean?
That's a wild thought. Just like, obviously I know that we're going to continue to evolve, but I've never really stepped back and been like, wait, everything evolves into new, like, how far do we have to get before we're no longer Homo sapiens?
Because listen, I've talked about this with you, right? When I thought that we were going to learn to elevate our biochemical nature in a more natural, endogenous way. And I thought we were going to lean more towards that as a society. But in that case, it would increase our processing power, right?
Yeah.
But we're opting the other way, where we're just going to we're going to let the body slowly deteriorate and detach from senses.
I think we're
in natural environment, and we're going to lean more heavily into the reality that is virtual, and
I think it's going to be split.
A combination of artificial intelligence and augmented reality. Like that's what we're going towards, dude. The combination of those two things that is terrifying to me, because Jackson, my son, who is not even 2 years old yet, is when he's 50. When he's 50, they're going to have a machine that combines artificial intelligence and augmented reality. That's probably going to be a thing. That's probably going to be a thing. And it's probably going to blow your freaking socks off in a way that is more crazy than these computers do.
And I hope that what comes with that is a better understanding of how to live harmoniously with nature.
I don't know.
Obviously, we don't know, but I would like to think that I think humans have been in a transition period for a very long time.
Started in the 70s.
And I would like to think, no, it started in like the 1860s.
Whenever they wrote the Constitution.
Yeah, I mean, that was about, I'm saying industrial revolution, though.
Oh, okay.
Late 1800s.
Okay.
But like, and then some could argue that there was an industrial revolution back in Greece and Italy and Rome and all that way back in the day, but
more of a scientific and social and
it was also
psychological.
Obviously industrial. We just don't know how.
Of course, you're right.
Like the carvings, the stones,
they
the
built
movings,
these huge monolithic structures, huge structures.
Parthenon,
exactly,
and the Pantheon.
These things that are still here today.
Exactly, and there's nothing we've built in the last 200 years that'll survive 3,000 years.
Maybe.
Very few things.
If we're lucky, if an asteroid doesn't hit, we'll probably be okay.
But
I mean, if we don't blow it up with nuclear bombs and we like maintain it,
I think that humans have been going through a transition phase for a long time, and I think we had this period where we were discovering the potential of mechanical force, and we were discovering steam engines and learning to harness electricity, and we were so carried away with pushing that to the farthest we could push it. And I feel like we're just now taking a step back to analyze what impact we've had. And that's probably started in about the 70s, where we really started stepping back and being like, wait, hold the fuck up. What have we done to this earth in the last 100 years? Like, literally, that's as short as it was 100 fucking years that we started. So I think we will continue, obviously, we will continue to push technology further and further and further, but I hope that our greater understanding and our evolution of consciousness leads us to also do that in a way that is more harmonious with natural forces.
Man.
But that's specifically just me being optimistic. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I hope that happens. I think that would be the best path to take from now on, and I think there's a lot of people pushing for that path. But how successful that push will be, because at the end of the day, the oil barons are still running the fucking world. So we'll see.
Dude, did you listen to that podcast? God. Anyway, the guy was talking about like 5 companies that are like, it was like BlackRock. BlackRock was one of the big ones that he was talking about, but there was like 5 companies, right? And they own like 70% of the GDP or something. Like I can't even remember. Insane. I'm an idiot. I'm such a fucking idiot. I can't even begin to elaborate this because I don't understand. But they own like so much of God, it blew my mind. It just blew my mind. I was like, because everybody talks about the ruling elite or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's like, is it really as simple as like 5 companies that own like 80% of the stock market? You know what I mean? Oh, it was Vanguard. I think it was Blackfoot. Oh gosh, there was like 2 or 3 more.
I have no clue the names of the companies, but I fully believe that is what's going on.
They're
dude.
basically, oh man, they're
When you
basically
think
they're
back-
basically investment firms.
I mean, when you think back to the beginnings of the stock market, right? That hasn't been around forever. We fucking put that in place at some point. We started trading companies on a social, public level, like just trading shares of company. Like we put that into place at some point. You know, that hasn't just always been a thing. Sure, there's been investors in companies for a long time, but I'm saying when we initially put that into place, you don't think the elites of that time wrote some good rules into the laws that helped them out?
For sure.
Of course they did.
Yeah.
And they're the guys
still
behind the scenes that are still
Yeah.
ruling everything.
Well, he was talking about like how, okay, when these political guys get out of office, it's pretty much guaranteed that they're going to get a job in these companies, right? And he was talking about one of them they have a huge contract to rebuild Ukraine after the war's over.
Dude, we're getting in the weeds.
Oh
We're in the weeds.
We're deep down right now.
That is allegedly very speculative, though we don't know that anybody has a contract to rebuild Ukraine yet.
Dude,
I don't know if that's public information or you're just hearing that's hearsay. But that seems like
Someone way smarter than me said this.
that
Way
sounds like
smarter than me.
something that the media would very specifically be avoiding talking about.
Of course they would.
You know, for
Of
the reasons
course.
we just stated.
Yeah, dude, isn't that wild? Because you're thinking like maybe that'll get us taken off YouTube.
No, I'm saying.
What
like,
if that did get us taken off YouTube? There's no way.
They're not getting, dude. Joe Rogan talks about crazy shit like this all the time. They're not taking him down. He's the biggest platform.
He's on Spotify. He's not on YouTube.
Fuck YouTube. I'm not on YouTube. The video goes on YouTube.
That's true.
Fuck YouTube.
That's crazy.
Should we get on Truth Social?
I don't know. I've never used it.
Well, what are all the different ones like? There's like a new version of Twitter. I don't keep up with all the new social medias and everybody. Like Rumble, is that one of them?
Well, so what is? Do you have to get a new app with Twitter? Like, do you still use Twitter?
I've never used Twitter.
Man, I wish we had somebody that used Twitter because, like, I was just like, because he changed the name of it and it was bought by Elon. Like, I wonder if you had to get you hadn't had to get a new app at any point during this time, right?
Threads, a new version of Twitter that's coming out too? Is that made by Facebook? I think
Meta.
Meta. That's the fucking gayest name ever.
Meta.
God, I hate that name. God, I hate that name. I don't know. It just I'm like really.
Yeah, it's so obvious.
It's
so obvious.
It's so like self-entitled. It's like
Yeah.
really.
We are creating the metaverse.
Really.
Yeah.
Just the term.
I mean, can you argue with that amount of success? I mean, can you really? Come on now.
The metaverse has had almost no success.
Dude, Instagram and Facebook.
No, I'm saying the metaverse. I'm not talking about Instagram and Facebook.
Oh, well, I don't know about all this, the newer stuff, the newer
Dude,
technology.
the independent game developers
Is that
make,
okay?
like actual VR games are doing way better than Facebook's doing right now, than Meta's doing.
See, I don't know
better.
anything about the gaming space.
Way better.
And that's such a huge space right now is the gaming sector, and that's something that I have no clue about. It's just crazy.
Take a pee break real quick.
Holla.
The camera just cut off. Oh, that's fun though. All right, done with the bathroom break. Let me hit another one of those. Yeah, we started off a little too hard, too quick. We're gonna chill it back out a little bit.
Deep breaths, everyone.
Talking a whole lot of shit about something we have no fucking clue about. What got you into that? How did we even start on that?
Dude, I think it's just like having Jackson has just got me fired up about the future, man. I think that's just what it is. Because
Also, our ability to just talk about shit we have no clue about.
I know.
It's so fun. God. Anyway.
But yeah, it's just got me. It's got me fired up about it, man.
So you wanted to talk about the Amish?
Dude, I love their butter, dude.
Amish butter's good.
I only buy Amish. I'm gonna be
The
honest.
Kerrygold?
What I've started to
Is
get.
Kerrygold? No, that's Irish butter. I'm dumb.
Dude, I don't care for anybody's health perspective. I use a lot of butter. I like butter. I think it's good. But
Better than
like
a lot.
I've started to buy it's like a big 1 pound block of butter, and I have like a butter dish, so
Yeah.
I'll just cut a little stick of
Yeah.
butter and put it in the dish, and then just wrap up
That's
the
smart.
rest. Because it's cheaper per ounce to just get like a big 1 pound block as opposed to 4 quarter-pound sticks. Like if you buy like 4 sticks of butter, it's just
Yeah.
you get more for your money.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. So I've started doing that because I use a lot of it. I cook with it a lot. Eat it on bread. Goes straight to my hips.
No, I love butter. Butter's better than a lot of things. I typically only cook with olive oil and butter and coconut oil every now and then. I feel like those are the best options, man.
What I've started to keep in the house is tallow, butter, and olive oil. So tallow is for your super high temps.
Right.
Butter is for your medium sautéing temps. Below 400 degrees most.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. And then olive oil for your non-heated, maybe some heating.
Olive oil can handle up to about 400 as well.
Yeah. I try not to cook with olive oil as much, but I will use it on I mostly just use it in the
Focaccia.
the pizzas and
Yeah. Like I did a pan fried focaccia the other day and did a little pizza, and I battered the whole thing down with olive oil, and then it didn't burn. It tasted great, and I think I cooked that at like 450.
But like if I'm cooking an egg, I'm not springing for the olive oil. I'm springing for the butter
Butter for an egg for sure.
every time.
I'm telling you, man. Try like coconut oil with some like potatoes.
Don't get me wrong.
It's really good.
I love coconut oil.
There's
but
something about the sweetness of the coconut oil that works really good with like carrots, especially.
Searing meats in coconut oil is delicious.
I don't think I've ever done that.
Dude, sear you a nice. No, it doesn't have to be nice. Just sear you a steak in some coconut oil. It is so good.
I didn't think coconut oil was good at high temps.
That's what it's good for.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I've
I've used it a lot, but I didn't realize how like meat was
right.
good.
Think about it. Things that are solid at room temperature as opposed to liquid, right?
That makes sense.
They have to
I
be
guess.
right. So if you're a liquid at room
Because
temperature,
then the temperatures are like they're shifted up the spectrum. If they're solid at room temperature, that means like I don't know how I was just trying to explain that.
okay. So if something liquefies,
It's like liquid nitrogen versus liquid water.
if something liquefies at a lower temperature, if something liquefies at a lower temperature, then it's butter. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I don't even remember where we were going with that.
What was that explanation from both of us? I don't know what that is. Okay. The higher temperature, it can still stay solid. Typically, the higher temperature it's going to burn at.
Right, exactly. So if the temperature of it becoming a liquid is lower, it can withstand more heat.
Okay.
I've thought this through.
Doesn't sound like it.
I really have. I really have.
It
Okay.
doesn't seem like it.
Man, dang it.
But no, that's
Okay.
yeah. I usually go. You ever put butter in the coffee?
Of course.
Ooh, butter like blended into some coffee is nice. Same thing with coconut oil.
I used to do it, but I just get
'Cause
regular coffee now.
What made me start thinking about it was
Coconut oil is good.
Starbucks started serving. I don't know if they do it around here, but I saw like Starbucks started serving olive oil coffee. And I've never tried olive oil, but I love a little like butter. Like you get it blended in the coffee, get it emulsified.
Right.
It's really delicious.
Do you have a piece of paper?
Yeah, for sure. Why?
I was gonna show you the point that I was trying to make.
Why would we do that on an audio podcast? I think we're good.
Okay, so
We can just move on because we both sounded like idiots. It's fine.
okay, I will think that out better and remember. I'll bring it back.
Yeah, that
next
can be a
time.
correction.
I'll
week.
correct that. I'm so sorry. Moving swiftly on. Okay, I'm sorry.
The rain's picking up back up. Hopefully the
know.
thunder doesn't come through.
I know the rivers were busting when I passed. When I came up the drainage today. When I came up the big hill.
Good old August. We're probably gonna have a lot of storms.
I know, man. We're getting into hurricane season. They're talking about development in the fucking Atlantic.
Development.
So, yeah. It's like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I should have wrote some topics out. I feel like we're
No. Nah, dude. Let's just have a moment of silence.
Yeah, I'll cut this. We can come up with something.
Let's just breathe.
Yeah, I should have wrote something out. No clue what to talk about.
Nah, dude, I've been trying to use voice memos in my phone. Like,
really?
So like when I have because when I'm driving, like I tend to have some decent thoughts when I'm driving. Like,
oh yeah, I think we've talked about this because I said I'll just record in a Snapchat, record myself saying whatever I say, and save it.
Right. And the other day I was going down the road and I was like thinking, like I spent so much of my early life thinking of, everything's pretty much figured out. You know what I mean? I spent so much of my early life thinking like, oh, humans have pretty much got everything figured out. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And it's like I've gotten older and I've realized like
we know nothing.
We haven't figured out a lot. We figured out a lot, but we don't know a lot of the biggies. You know what I mean?
All of them.
Like the ones they lie to you about.
All of the biggies.
Right.
We have no clue about.
Like,
all of the biggies.
Like history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, did you hear, like, I forget what podcast it was on, and I've done no research, I'm sorry. But there was some guy's theory is saying, like, the Middle Ages might not have been nearly as long as we think they were.
Yeah, I've heard that.
The people who were reigning at that time wanted to stretch out time to make it seem like they had a much longer rule than they did.
That's so weird.
So they fucked up with the time frame. I don't know about that. But, there's also, like, the calendar. Like, when we first introduced the Gregorian calendar, whichever one was before that, I can't remember the name, like, literally they realized that the equinoxes weren't happening. They were, like, 2 weeks or 12 days or something separated. So they introduced a new calendar and literally just cut, like, 12 days out of it. Mm-hmm. They were like, all right, today's the 5th, tomorrow's the 19th.
Right. Well, that's interesting about this older type of architecture that is celestially aligned, so that it represents a specific moment in time.
Dude,
isn't that really interesting?
Also, it makes you wonder the ancient structures that are aligned with certain stars and constellations. It makes you really wonder what type of connection we had to the stars back then and what type of connection we had to space.
Right.
Because in modern times, we've made almost, unless it's an art piece, none of our infrastructure is aligned with the fucking stars.
No, not really.
Like, and I feel like there's so many things that take that into it, or even like the golden ratio. And like so much of ancient Greece was built on the golden ratio. And I forget, I learned this in music because it has a lot to do with music, but I forget the actual ratio.
I'm sure some like city planners, like, because there's such, you know what I mean? Like city type of planners, like I'm hoping they think about like where the sun is coming from, and it might be better to have the sun coming at this angle in the city at this time of the day. People like, oh man, coming into Columbia, it's terrible. If you're coming from the north into Columbia, the sun's in your eyes every single morning. Yeah. And in the evening, when you're going back home, it's in your eyes because it's
the worst.
You're going west in the evening, and you're going east in the morning, and it's like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's right.
Just staring at the sun all your entire commute. But
I mean, at the end of the day, you still got to get where you need to go.
But their incorporation of celestial objects into their infrastructure was way more deliberate than just like we're gonna face our sun.
Know.
We're gonna face our
they're like aligning with certain constellations and like the Pleiades and like Orion and all this shit. Like they make them point almost exactly, and then or do you think Stonehenge where it's like
we just place that understanding that we think we have onto them? You think that's possible?
I think it is possible, but I think it's pretty provable too. I don't think it's just our interpretation of it. I think we can pretty much prove that is what's going on. Like Stonehenge, where like every equinox, the sun comes perfectly through this like tiny little gap in the rocks or whatever. They thought it was an observatory basically.
At a specific point in time.
Yeah, and
Right.
or like the Serpent Mound. One of the big arguments to the age of Serpent Mound is that the head is almost perfectly in line with the spring equinox, but it comes in line so that it's moved apart from being perfectly in line at the rate, like if about 11,000 years ago, it would be perfectly in line.
Be more specific. You're saying that you should say that the head.
I said
of,
that. The head of Serpent Mound faces the spring equinox.
The setting sun.
The setting sun.
The setting sun
on the equinox.
Right.
Okay, fair. Yeah.
Right.
Duh.
So it
doesn't face a date.
Right. It faces the setting sun.
Yeah, okay. But and it's like what, like 11 or like 9 degrees off.
Right.
And if it was 11,000 years ago, due with the propagation of the earth and all that.
Okay, and so that's how they date it. That's how they date it.
Well, that's how they. Right. That's how we think. You know, again, we have no clue.
Oh, so weird.
That's just the best observation and inference that we can make based on the data we have.
It seems to me that like it's that the modern consensus is that people were in this area of the world, which is southeast area,
North America. Well,
right.
Eastern North America.
Eastern North America.
Because in all of North America, we're not in the South.
Right. Eastern North America for at least 12,000 years.
It's at least 200,000 years.
That is not humans in this part of the world.
200,000 years.
That is not a general consensus.
I don't know. It's not a general consensus.
That is not the large consensus.
But there's evidence to point it that way.
200,000? I have not. What evidence is there for that?
The Clovis culture.
Yeah, but the oldest remains they have of the Clovis culture, the so-called Clovis culture around here is maximum 50,000 years old.
I think
maximum.
I think there's new information on that.
Because it was that guy off the Savannah River, like in the low country of the Savannah.
I think they dug deeper in those sites and found more evidence that dates back to even farther.
Maybe.
I think we have evidence of modern humans in North America upwards of about 200,000 years ago. I mean, don't quote me on that. I'm not a fucking archaeologist, but I'm pretty sure that I've heard that is like legit.
I'm coming at it from the perspective of the hardcore conventional geologic perspective.
Damn, Quinn wants to call me right now. I wish I could I wish I had a way to plug him up.
Dude, just oh yeah. You just had to hold it to the speaker.
It'd sound like garbage, and I don't want to do that to people.
But damn, dude. Golly. But no, you were talking about our connection with the stars. Like that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, like our connection to nature. Like, are we going to use our enhanced knowledge to further understand nature, or are we going to choose to build our own reality? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Isn't that weird to think about?
I like to think that both things will happen simultaneously.
Yeah.
I think big tech companies and certain people are going to be very, very, very invested in pushing new technologies and pushing the evolution of technology to bring humans to a higher level. And I think simultaneously there's going to be a huge community of people that is pushing for a greater interconnectedness with Earth. And there's going to be a huge community that intentionally wants to avoid some of the shortcomings of new technology so that we have a better connection with the Earth. I think the two things will happen at the same time.
Because I'm thinking about, we were talking about those people that lived so long ago, what we were talking about, those people that lived so long ago and they were so aligned with celestial events, they have a way better understanding of their place in the cosmos than we do. Like
What we assume.
But no, but think about it. Like
I agree with you, but I'm saying all we can do is assume.
But all we can assume is that their smartest were able to conceive of this. Doesn't mean that all of their people could conceive of this. Or
they were so dumb that they looked at the stars and they didn't have all this light pollution that we have in modern day.
Of course.
And they looked at the stars and were like, that's cool. But obviously the complexity of these sites lead us to believe that they had a much greater understanding.
So that's the question. Because they were rooted so heavily into true Mother Nature and they were so united in what it meant to live on this planet. And we've gotten away from our place in the cosmos with all this light pollution, right? Like, and I wonder, like, if our building of man-made things is just going to slowly take us away from that which is divine, and
But I
that
think
which is like beautiful and motherly and bountiful about this planet. Like, I wonder if we're gonna constantly just shade our eyes from it.
I mean, we've seen that there, with the advent of new technology, we've seen that there has been a huge resurgence of people trying to get more in touch with nature. You know, there's a huge push for cut back on social media. It's not good for you. Go work out. Go for I feel like there's a huge community of people that are still really pushing for our connection with nature.
But that's just because we still have our human bodies. Like, that's not even going to be needed anymore. Like,
that's a good point.
We just still have human requirements. That's the only reason people still feel that way. I don't think so. Yeah. We have human requirements.
But we still enjoy, regardless of our human requirements, we still enjoy the beauty of nature.
Of course.
Like, we still go outside and stand in awe of what the universe has created for us, or not for, has created. So I think that regardless of I think the more we understand the universe and the farther we develop technology, the more we're going to have an appreciation for the universe. I'd like to think that way. Like glass half full, that's how we'd be. The greater understanding we have, the more we can be in touch with the universe and what it means to be a part of this universe. And maybe technology will help with that. Maybe it'll hurt, or maybe everybody will come together and this is super optimistic, maybe everybody will come together and actually we can grow to be the next level of species that we need to become.
Right.
In order to become a truly like solar civilization, a type 1 civilization. We're not even there yet.
Yeah, I think that's what we're just going through so much growing pains right now because everything is so.
Yeah.
All of these perspectives are right there.
Yeah.
Right there. It's so easy to access all these different crazy perspectives, and it's like we're just starting to account for all of the possibilities, and we're just now starting to rationalize and decide how we feel about them, and even begin to contemplate stuff. Like, it's like, man, we're going through such growing pains right now as a human race.
Right. And I mean, from our perspective,
it's
easy.
all because of the flux of information. That's literally what it is.
Which at the end of the day, I would say is beneficial. But I feel like when you're looking through the eyes of just a regular life, it's such a small, tiny little blip in the actual evolution of humanity. And I do feel like I said, for the past 100 years or so, maybe 150, 200 years, we've been going through a tremendous transition period. And I think looking back on this time frame, if we don't blow ourselves up or get hit, the universe doesn't blow us up. If you look back on the time we're living in now, 1,000 years from now, we're going to see us as like Rome and Greece, but it's just going to be that next level of like, holy shit, look what these monkeys were fucking doing 1,000 years ago. God damn. It's like...
Will there be evidence of what we're doing now?
If
we
don't blow ourselves up.
Radio waves. Our radio waves are out there forever, man.
Oh yeah, but they're not bouncing back to us.
Hell nah.
They're gone. They're gone, bro. Especially if we get wiped out, we aren't finding those.
They're out there. Unless someone records them and sends them back to us. That's sick. They were like, okay, we got you guys. Oh man. Y'all must like this shit.
So hold on. You just gave me an idea. All the talk about UFOs.
No. UAPs.
It doesn't. They're all the same thing. AAPs, UAPs, UFO. They're all the same thing. Yeah. We have all this talk about UFOs. Well, what about we sent the Voyager? The Voyager's past Pluto now, right? Or past Neptune on its way past Pluto.
Sure.
It's not quite out of the solar system yet. I don't think.
I don't know.
I guarantee they're out there circling that thing like, what? Look at what these monkeys did.
I don't know, man.
Look at what these fucking apes did. They sent this shit. It's almost out of their solar system. Look at this feeble little attempt at space travel.
I mean, do you honestly this is my thing. Like, now that the government's saying it, I don't trust it.
No.
Ever since it came out of their mouth, I was like, you guys are probably lying.
Well, it's probably just a distraction for whoever you said had the fucking contract to rebuild Ukraine.
Oh, man.
It's probably all it is.
What?
I said it's probably just a distraction for whoever has the contract to rebuild Ukraine.
Fuck, you might be right. Jesus Christ. That's so cynical, but you're probably onto something.
We're very, like, I mean, everybody's cynical. It's hard not to be cynical based on the evidence of the past and how people have acted.
And how long do you think people have been aware of that? And do you think that it's do you think we're just now becoming aware of it, like since like the 70s? Or do you think that they were
Internet helped. The internet was a big thing. But also, like, the advent of the printing press, I believe, changed a lot of that.
So, like, transplant yourself to 1950, right? Where there's one TV channel.
Yeah.
2, 3, 4. There's like 5 radio stations.
Yeah.
1 newspaper.
I feel like unless you were on the cutting edge of technology at that time, you had
to be a reader. You had to be a reader.
But yeah, but
you had to be like an absolute animal of a reader.
If you were just a guy who woke up and went to work in the factory and came home and went to sleep and then fucking repeated the next day, you probably trusted every fucking thing you heard. You probably didn't have time to sit back and think about like what
You're working a 12-hour shift 6 days a week at the factory.
Yeah. And you're coming home coughing up blood.
Just got back from World War II and knocked up your wife with 2 kids.
So like...
and just so happened to build some of the biggest infrastructure we've ever... The biggest expanse of infrastructure.
Like the average person has so much more free time nowadays that I think, plus the internet, we just have more time to kind of sit back and speculate on those types of things. But back in the day, nobody was speculating on that. It was like, let me fucking go to work and hopefully I don't lose my arm at the factory. And then let me go home and try my best to feed my fucking kids.
Oh, man. Oh, and now because we're so far, like, think about back in the day when the founding fathers wrote our Constitution, right? That was the most liberal you could get. If you were saying that any random person, any random gross surf motherfucker has some rights, that was the most liberal perspective that you could have.
It's wild to think about, but that's so true.
And now we're getting so far on that liberal side where it's like, man, we've taken it to the absolute extreme. And in most places in the world still right now, like the Middle East and like in Asia and like in Russia and in like a lot of places, people don't have rights. People don't have rights. So how about we calm down a little bit and remember that in this country we have rights, and let's not take them away from each other in this country. Let's try to stand together and make sure we uphold each other's rights instead of trying to take them from each other. That's what we need to do, because we're so terrified of something being scary, or we're so terrified of someone not agreeing with us, or we're so terrified of what truth might mean for us.
Yeah.
And we try to take freedom away from other people's ability to express something, right? And we're getting into this dangerous territory in this country where that might go away. And I really don't want it to. So let's try to do that for each other. Let's try to uphold each other's rights, and remember that is not something that is a given. It's not even close. And it's a super fine line, and it's easy to cross. Okay?
Yeah. I mean, I like to be optimistic. I do think there's I think at the end of the day, I've said it a million fucking times, it's the vocal minority. Most people don't agree with what's being portrayed in the news nowadays. Most people are normal people. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. Most people, unless you live in the biggest cities, unless you live on the full, like, edges of the country and the populace, there's hundreds of thousands, millions of square miles of people who don't buy into any of this bullshit.
I agree with you. But here's the issue with that.
The powers that be do buy into the bullshit.
No. Here's the issue. Fringe makes change.
Yeah. Andreessen thought.
Exactly.
Yeah.
fringe creates change.
Right.
And those people that are rooted and grounded that aren't participating in any of that bullshit, things change around them.
Yeah.
And that community is still there.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like,
yeah, that's a good point.
We have to. You just have to. This
I think it's gonna be a battleground.
This majority has to be vocal, and this is what we've always talked about, right? This majority has to be vocal. It can't be the silent majority anymore.
We've got to start.
It can't be the silent majority anymore, and it doesn't have to be this huge worldly thing. It needs to be local.
But people are speaking.
It has to be local.
That's why Texas holds the new LA.
Right.
Because people are speaking.
They are.
People are making change. People are putting their money where their fucking mouth is.
They're making their choices.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a reason Texas is the new LA. Or Austin is the new LA.
We're not just in an ideological war with China right now. We're in an ideological war with ourselves.
Absolutely.
And it's like, hello, we need to get a plan going. Let's get a plan going.
See, again, it's from the perspective of our petty little lifetimes, it seems like nothing's happening. But also, I mean, looking back, I think that it's gonna be a much more positive time than people see. It's filled with a lot of turmoil, but I do think at the end of the day will be a positive time. And the people who are still in charge making the rules are old fucking farts. They're just clinging on to the power that they've had their entire lives. And it's going to come to a point where a huge majority of the people making the rules fucking die.
They are. It's coming quick.
It's coming very quick. I mean, look at our president. Oh, dude, speaking of that.
They got someone right on right after him, bro.
The election. A year from now.
A year from now.
A year from now.
Bet. Do we make it?
Bro,
do we make it?
I think we'll make it. Bro, in 6 months, shit's about to get really crazy.
Have you? I know.
Have you? It's gonna get crazy.
I know, dude. I don't even want to start doing the podcast, dude, because everything's gonna be going nuts. It's gonna be going nuts,
and we will hopefully avoid most because I don't pay attention. So hopefully we'll avoid most of that conversation.
Jesus Christ. Oh my goodness. But I've been preaching, but I feel like rights, man. We can't forget about it.
You have been preaching. I was about to say, I think you could do this podcast by yourself with how you've been ranting today, bro. You've been ranting.
Been on my soapbox, man.
No, they've been good rants, but like, dude, also like we can't be so single-minded. We got to step back and analyze how we never know if it will all work out for the bad. We can't be pessimistic. We can't be optimistic. We got to be realistic. And
you can't.
To be realistic, there's a lot of people doing good in the world, and there's a lot of people doing bad in the world.
But here's the biggest thing. Here's the thing that is so relevant to us right now is that some people, over a lot of things that have truly affected people's lives, right, have taken rights to try to make people have rights. That's not how it works. When you take away someone's rights to express something or to do something or to have objection to something, to try to make someone else you're trying to make someone else have rights. Like, it just doesn't work.
That's a very vague description, but I would tend to agree.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't take rights to give it. That's my point. That doesn't work that way.
Well, I mean, also to counter that, your rights end where someone else's begin. That's how it's always been. Your rights end when you start affecting the livelihood of someone else.
Yeah, you're right.
So
that definitely gets complicated.
So in a way, you are taking away certain rights in order to give others.
No, you're right.
So, but I'm saying, like, I would tend to agree with you on that. That's not the right way to go about it.
It's not as simple, right? Because we have to have some regulation.
Nothing is simple.
It's nothing. God,
nothing is simple.
And that's why we can talk.
If you think you could do a better job than the people in power right now,
oh God,
you have no clue the amount of information you're working with.
I don't want that job.
Absolutely no clue.
I would never show up. I would never show up. I would use all my PTO.
Dude, if I was a president, I'd be golfing every week. I'd just be on the fucking golf course. Dude, I could not handle the level of information and the level of decision making those guys have to deal with.
If I was president, I would immediately take all exemptions, all legal exemptions away from big corporations.
I mean,
That's what I would do. I would do that immediately. If you have the truth, the
You
thing
don't
is,
have that power.
They don't have the power.
They have zero power. Dude.
They don't have that power.
The president has the least amount of power of like
That's
most
ridiculous, right?
anybody in the fucking country.
It's insane.
They have zero power.
And we've placed all the emphasis on that position.
They're such a figurehead. We've placed all the emphasis on that position, arguably as a distraction, because we're not paying attention to the people who are actually making the fucking rules. We're paying attention to the dumbass who's standing behind the podium every fucking week.
So are we truly free?
Oh, that's a wide-ranging question. I don't know.
And that's the line that I'm talking about, right?
We're very free in some ways.
Right.
In most ways.
Yes. We're the most free people on the planet.
In other ways, we're slaves to the system.
Right. We're the most free. Let's put this in perspective. We're the most free people on the planet, and yet we're not.
Arguably.
Right. Maybe. And we're just thinking of America, right, as the beacon of freedom. It's supposed to be the beacon of freedom for the world, right? So, let's just suppose that we're the most free people on the planet, and we're really not. We're really not even free. Isn't that terrifying to think about? But because we can't, we place all our emphasis on this one position that really doesn't even matter, and they're just distracting us from the people that truly have power, and we have no control over it whatsoever, and they're just giving us shit that we buy with no choice at prices that we can't negotiate.
It's almost like
what the fuck is going on?
It's almost like they've granted us the amount of freedom, and I don't think this was intentional. I think it fell into place because obviously the founding fathers didn't have this in mind. There was a lot of things they predicted, and there's a lot of things they speak about with big companies taking over. And there's a lot of amendments and all that deal with that. But it's almost like they've gifted us this amount of freedom so that they can do shady things behind the scenes.
Right. It's the same means to an end to those people. Right? Like the people in China and the people who run China in the government and the people who run the top 5 American corporations that control everything through stocks.
Right.
Right? And shareholders.
Yeah.
They want the same thing. Right? They want power. They want control. They want leverage.
I don't know for sure, but I would imagine.
Something similar.
Yeah.
But they're just using 2 different tools to get it.
Well, one of the big things about corruption is America is they just that's why the news system is so negative, and they just use media to keep us distracted about the fucking real hard-hitting things that they're doing behind the scenes. That's where most conspiracy theories even stem from, and it's obvious though. It's obvious that there's absolutely a problem with mass media pushing certain topics in order to get people warring with each other. You want the people in your country warring with themselves so that they're distracted from what you're doing above them. So it's almost like they've gifted us this freedom in order to manipulate the narrative. But they've just hijacked it. That's what I'm saying. I don't think it was put in place intentionally.
They hijacked it.
But I certainly, yes, they found the loopholes and they've made it work for themselves the best they can.
They have.
And then they just continue to keep us distracted by whatever the next fucking headline is.
And freedom is
so that we forget the last one.
Freedom is a constant battle that we fight every day.
Constantly.
Wow. Okay,
that's a great way to put it.
Exactly. We fight it every day.
Yeah.
Wow. And we are free.
We both just had a little breakthrough there. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing because that's beautiful because in reality, you, in America at least right now, you do have the choice to be free.
Yeah.
But if you're not careful, your freedom can be hijacked.
Very quickly.
What the fuck?
And the problem is,
be wary, people. Be wary.
If you choose to be free in the way you want to be free, you might not have access to all the shit. You might not be paying attention to the news. If I'm being as free as I want to be, I'm not paying attention to what the government's doing. And then, like you're saying, they make changes around everybody, and then everybody just wakes up and they're like, "Oh fuck, they're taking our guns." Ah shit. Because most of the people who actually don't pay attention to the news and just live their lives and are the majority of people aren't going to be paying attention to the changes they're trying to make. And therefore aren't going to be aware of the need to stop those changes. So that's a very scary thing. Dude, that hour went by quick. That was a quick hour.
Everybody, hold on.
I don't know where this conversation came from.
Everybody, hold on tight because we are in for it, buddy. Y'all better put your big boy pants on because, man, this shit's real. This shit's real, man.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, just keep soaking in the sunlight.
Tend to the garden that you can touch.
Exactly. Yeah. Shit. I wish this would have been a lighter podcast. I was not ready for this.
I wasn't either.
You hit me with some rants, bro. Dude. I was not ready for this.
I don't know what caused it. I have no idea, dude. I probably made 0 sense.
I think you made sense. There was definitely some times where I was just staring blankly like I have no clue where you're going right now.
I would have never known. I would have never known. But the truth is I didn't know where I was going.
But sometimes you got to speak like this in order to process your own thoughts.
Dude, isn't that weird how you have to speak from the heart in order to even mull it over? It has to come from.
And that's another issue with like censorship and like worrying about every single little word that everybody says. Is sometimes you don't even realize your faults until you put them out there, and then you're like, "Oh shit, I'm a fucking idiot."
Right?
Why did I even say that?
Well, that
happens to me all the fucking time.
Here is the debate: is like, should we censor dangerous things? Like that's the thing. Should we censor dangerous things?
I think. What's your definition of dangerous? Because I think there is a lot of danger in misinformation.
Exactly. And that's subjective. We've jumped into
into
religion land. You know what I mean? We're not in any scientific thing now. We've left the ability to be scientific. So now it's like, yeah.
That's a big issue. And speaking of the evolution of humanity with technology, do you think we'll forget religion?
No.
Really?
No. It'll be the new one.
AI is God?
Dude, you have
Jesus.
I want you to think about this, right?
Oh, I know.
Listen.
I don't want to think about it.
This is listen. In your house, I have no idea how it's going to happen. But in your house, you have a little machine that maybe represents a computer. Something like a computer. Something that you can manipulate and ask questions, right? And here's what it's going to do. It's going to process every piece of information available in an extremely tiny amount of time and give you an answer, okay, for anything that you want, any question. And it's going to be way better than any search engine you could ever imagine.
But we created that. So are we God?
But what questions would you ask it? Would you ask it?
I have no fucking clue. I don't have any questions.
Here's my fault.
Because right now, all it's doing is pulling from everything humans have ever said.
Exactly.
There's not enough information there. It's not going to answer anything that we don't
know. Exactly.
It's just going to present answers that you specifically don't know in a more concise way. It's not going to answer questions that we don't already have an answer for.
Well, here's the only argument.
Until we build a more advanced model.
We're gonna assume, we have to assume that the only thing that it can tell us are things that we know and we have said. But we are so incomplete in our knowledge, it can't give us any real breakthrough information. What it can do, however, is synthesize and evaluate data at a much, much, much higher rate than you can.
Consolidate.
It can process information way faster than
millions of articles and scientific papers.
It'll read them for you.
Consolidate those into a specific answer that gives you exactly what you want to hear.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then who controls that? But man, it's been a fucking dense episode.
I don't think they're going to give it to us. It's going to be they're not going to give it to us.
They're going to do every fucking thing within their power to not give it to us. But at the end of the day, individuals are pushing computer technology just as hard as big companies are. There's individuals that are learning codes. There's individuals who are putting just as much effort in the big companies are, and they don't have nearly the resources, but they're making fucking progress. There's individuals out there that are coming up with their own AI. Like it is a wild, wild world that we live in when it comes to technology.
They're writing code every day.
It's wild. Yeah, but we'll call it there. This was a dense episode. It was fun.
Everybody hold on tight and keep your motherfucking eyes peeled.
Yeah, pay attention. Pay attention to what's going on. But don't take anything we said. Like,
freedom, baby.
Take
Don't
it
get
all with a grain of
scared.
salt.
Don't get scared and hold down the freedoms.
We're also just a couple dudes living in the Matrix trying to explain how we feel about things as well.
I have no idea what's going on.
Fucking love you guys. Thanks for listening.